Alrighty. Hi, everybody. I think we are live. This is the first time that we have been live on YouTube on our own channel in what seems like forever. I sent the link to Doug and to Eric Canetti and to Mark, but I talk to Mark pretty regularly. But I think the last time I actually sent a StreamYard link to Doug was actually in 2022. So it's actually been quite a while since we've done this. Now, we were on with Sean Stackhouse, his channel, about, what was that, Mark, 2 weeks ago, I think? So we have done a recent appearance, but as far as promoting on our own channel, it's just been a long time. And part of that reason why is, one, we don't like streaming unless we really have something that we need to discuss. But most of the time, what can be discussed news-wise is something that we can do on other social media platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, sometimes Facebook, etc., etc. The second thing is, one of the models that we use for promotion is, and part of it is like the proof is in the pudding, is you don't need YouTube for marketing. Now, granted, it doesn't hurt necessarily if you know what you're doing, but we're also trying to show that it's not really an essential part of it. And it does take a degree of talent to do YouTube. You have to have a certain type of charisma. You have to be able to say certain things to get people's attention, and it's really just not our forte.
Doug did a YouTube stream this afternoon.
He did, but he's good at it.
And here you are saying, like, Doug, you're wasting your time on
No. I said it takes a certain caliber of person to do it, and even Doug has toned it down too. We're lucky if we get one of his streams per week.
Well, Doug's good at it. That's how we met Doug, was through his YouTube channel. So.
Yeah, and even back then,
we're all just kind of envious of you.
He was doing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, but you did a mixture of those scripted streams plus the live streams in tandem with each other, and that was time consuming for sure.
Yeah, the biggest problem was when I made the switch to the creator realm was, I couldn't really do the content that I was doing when I was just essentially like a critic. And then I was just like, I feel really weird, if I continue doing some of the content that I did before. So then it was like, okay, well, I could still cover like topical news stories when enough of them pile up, and then I can try and do serious commentary, scripted sort of things once in a while. But I can't really do the stuff that I did in 2017, 2018. It would feel weird to me.
There's a person in the chat saying that we're echoing. Can someone else in the chat confirm this, if this is something that's happening? I'm not picking up anything on my end as far as...
Yeah, I'm not on my end.
Yeah, I'm using we're in the StreamYard audio, not the YouTube audio, so we may not be able to pick it up.
Yeah, normally that happens whenever you have multiple windows open, but as far as we're concerned, I only have one window open, and it's StreamYard. I don't have anything else.
Kamen says it's okay.
Yeah, okay, and so is Marwin Mentis and Jim Tuner. He says no echo. Okay, that's good to know. So what we're going to do is this. We have a little bit of news that we're going to share, and that'll be in just a couple of minutes from both Doug and from Eric Canetti. Meanwhile, we'll give a status report real quick about how things have been going. We'll do a small Q&A for Kamen America Volume 8, and if there's any questions for beyond that, we'll see what we can answer. But like I said, just sound off in the comment section if there's anything that you want to ask. So real quick, just to recap for kind of how the year has gone, it's been rather fantastic. So the turnout for our books has been really good. Between Iconic Comics, the campaigns, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and Amazon, plus Antarctic Press, retail sales, as well as our overseas sales in Japan, business is really good. So as far as our projection for at least next year, we're good to go as far as our funding is concerned and our projects are concerned. If you haven't been keeping up with us on social media, in the spring, we're actually going to bring on a new artist, a rather familiar artist, but it's going to be his first sequential work, and that is Mr. Hachifusa. You might know him from the cover work that he's done in our recent books. He's fantastic. He's always wanted to work sequentials and interiors, and so we have the opportunity for him. We're launching the Kamen America Gaiden micro series. It will actually cover the 4 ancillary characters, including Kamen Ramen, Kamen Comet, Kamen Terra, and Kamen Victory. and he'll be drawing those. And they're going to be 36 pages. We haven't decided yet if we're going to do floppy or saddle stitch. We can't do hardcover because there's not enough pages in it. But we're going to keep the price point very, very affordable for everyone as an add-on item. But we're really excited about that. In fact, the first Japanese translated script has been sent to him as of today. And he's going to get started on that right away, just in time for the spring. The second bit of news...
He's already started. He just sent me thumbnails of the first few pages. His thumbnails look amazing. He's on it.
That's incredible, considering you just sent me that script this morning.
I sent it to him this morning. I don't know how he does it.
He's a go-getter. He and I get along very... We talk a lot because my vocation is I'm an audiologist, and he's a pharmacist. And so both of us kind of do this as a hobby. So we have a lot of things to talk about in common. We have very similar schedules. And I think he's kind of a workaholic like me. So we're really excited about that because that obviously alleviates some of the work from my shoulders, and it gives him the opportunity to do something that he's always wanted to do. We wrapped up Bell County Comic Con earlier this year. I have the final numbers, and it's really good. The final numbers are just north of 40,000 attendees. So this is Bell County Comic Con number 6, and I think it's actually the 3rd or 4th one sponsored by Iconic Comics. So if you've ever been to Bell County Comic Con, you'll see our branding on pretty much everything there. It's our best convention as far as sales are concerned as well. And it's very exciting because we have a lot of ideas in terms of what we want to do in the future. So that's a good one to keep an eye out on. We have Doug in the chat, or in here with us joining. So one thing that you want to do is if you want kind of the weekly update on Iconic Comics in general, you're going to want to follow and subscribe to him on all social media platforms, but especially on YouTube, because every week he does a Dougcast where he essentially kind of recaps a lot of the news that's been going on recently. We have a guest in the back room that I'm going to add, and let's see if he's here. We have Eric Canetti.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice.
Hi, Eric.
This is where all the cool kids are.
Yeah, I was telling them that I sent you the StreamYard link, and I looked at the last time I talked to you in DMs, and that was in 2022.
Dude.
It's been a while.
Yeah,
We're big boys, so whenever we need to talk, we just call each other.
Yeah, because there's a thing called a phone, and you just call.
Yeah, it's super convenient. Well, I was telling the chat we're really excited because we're gonna share some news with some people regarding
Let's do it.
our convention appearances, but that's going to be after we do this small Q&A. We're going to go through the comment section and just kind of answer questions that people might have had recently. So let's see here. So Phoenix Knight, let's start off. He says, I want to hear about Goblin. So I'm going to hand that over to Mark.
Goblin was losing weight at the start of the year, and I thought he was sick. It turned out that he just did not like his dry food anymore, so I put him on wet food, and now he's big and fat again, and he has the crazies, so you might hear him running around and tearing up the carpet in the background, but Goblin's doing good. Fat, stupid cat.
Awesome.
Jim Tuner says, why does Iconic Comics have a private jet, and who is their mysterious CEO, Lisa Marie? So Iconic Comics does not have a private jet. However, we do travel a lot, and the guy who owns Iconic Comics travels a lot. I mean, every weekend he is going somewhere different. I mean, earlier this year he was in Australia. I think he is going to be in San Antonio this weekend. But I mean,
was it last year he was in Japan?
No, earlier this year.
That's right.
Yeah, he was there in January, and he actually met the editor of the Circle Badger group, the Dojin group. So he had a lot of fun, but that guy is jet set. Now, the mysterious Lisa Marie, for people who don't know, it's a joke because we went to Memphis. Actually, all of us in this little group, we all went there a few months ago, and we went to Graceland because it turns out none of these guys had ever been before, and we got to visit the private jet of Elvis Presley, which is the Lisa Marie. That was a lot of fun. I was telling them that the last time I was there was roughly a decade ago, and I had gone 3 times, and Graceland never changed. It was the exact same setup, exact same payment process, everything. And we get there, and it's like a miniature Disneyland. I mean, they upgraded big time. And I read somewhere that it was because Lisa, I think it was Presley's estate, they were going to uproot Graceland and move somewhere, and so they basically talked the state into giving them like $100 million renovation makeover just in time for the Elvis Presley movie that came out. So, I mean, they upgraded big time. If you're ever in Memphis, there's a lot of really cool stuff to do, but I would say that one thing that you need to do is Graceland, and I think the guys would agree with me that the Bass Pro Shop is probably number 2.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's pretty cool.
It's a cultural experience. Educated Viking says, Badger is great and all, but I don't think he can set up a stream. Kind of a human thing. He might not be able to set up a stream, but he can swim up a stream because capybaras are very good swimmers. So that's something that that they can definitely do. Let's see. Sounds good. The Wandering Creative says, is that how you pronounce Eric's last name? It is pronounced Canete. Or Canetti.
Oh, don't add the extra flavor into it, Tim. It's okay with that.
Is it Canete? Canetti?
It's no, in its original form, it had the tilde above the N, so it's with an Enya, so it's Cañete.
Oh, Cañete.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not how you that's not how you prefer to pronounce it, is it?
Well, no, it's not. It's not. My grade school principal called me into his office because I was in trouble, and that's how I picked up the pronunciation. He's like, Eric Canetti, please come to the principal's office. I was like, hey, that sounds cool. I'll do that.
Well, there you have it. Mr. X says Hachifusa is such a chill guy. He is the best corn frosty enthusiast. He is, and he eats Kellogg's Frosted Flakes every day. I don't know how healthy that is, but what I can tell you is he is getting dietary fiber in great quantities, so I hope that his colon is very clean at this point. Tara is getting one that'll be very insightful. So commentary, Mark knows the schedule for the publications. I think Tara is she the third or the fourth one that we're going to be doing?
It's a toss-up right now between her and Sylvia as to who's going to be last. I don't want to spoil anything. I'll talk to you behind the scenes, but the second one is definitely going to be Misha, and I'm not going to give away too much. I saw another question in the chat asking if there's going to be team-ups in those micro-series, and we kind of already know because the cover for the Kamen Ramen micro-series is already shown. Marmot Maiden is going to play a big role in the Kimiko micro-series. So yes, you can expect other characters who are the side characters within Kamen America and might seem underdeveloped. They're going to get larger roles in the micro-series to help flesh them out some more when we don't have space to, really delve into their origins in the main series. They're going to get a good spotlight as well, co-starring in these micro-series. So anybody who's a Marmot Maiden enthusiast or a Chad enthusiast, you're definitely going to want to add these on. But I'm not going to give away too much because this is kind of like an exciting thing. Let's leave some surprises.
I think so. You're referring to the Wandering Creatives question here for the guidance. Will we see more pairings and of whom? I think the one that we can confirm is Misha and Chad. That's one that we've talked about. However, the other ones that will remain to be seen simply because the plot is in a lot of flux. So by the time we make it to, let's say, the Kamen Terra micro-series, there are things that might have actually changed in the pages of both Black Ops and Kamen America that will alter that trajectory as far as your projections are concerned. So we can confirm that the Misha and Chad one is going to happen. So we are going to team them up for theirs. I mean, it's a lot more fun. And not just that, we can cover more ground that way. One inspiration for the micro-series was actually Ninja Turtles. And if you look in those individual micro-series, I think a lot of them feature team-ups. I know for sure Raphael and Casey, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's what they introduced Casey Jones. And then the Michelangelo one introduces Clunk, his cat, which is important. And the Donatello one is him teaming up with a parody of Jack Kirby, and so it was a big tribute to Kirby. So most of them were team-ups. I think Leo's is the only real solo one, and that's the one that brought the Shredder back, and so that was kind of a big deal too. So that's where the inspiration came from. We're calling them Kamen America Gaiden. You probably already, everybody out there, Kamen America Gaiden, the first volume we released, was a collection of the original Kamen America web series, which told side stories and missing chapters that took place in between the main volumes. And this new Kamen America Gaiden micro series is basically going to be like that, just with longer form storytelling. So if you have the original Kamen America Gaiden and you like that format of missing chapters and side stories, well, this is just going to be that, but bigger and better.
Mr. X has two questions. One is if Africa plays a role in the geographic and plot setting of Kamen America, and the second one is the star in Carly's hair. So Africa only plays a role in the sense that there was a lot of humanitarian efforts that were done by Prestige. So the Prestige Corporation in that world is the equivalent of, let's say, maybe Jeff Bezos. We're not talking about like maybe the most rich or powerful company in the world, but definitely a lot of influence simply because of the sheer amount of money they have, and also some of the subsidiary companies that they hold. So no, as far as Africa is concerned, you're going to hear it referred to kind of in the past tense, but as far as geography, not really. The star is a cosmetic thing. I think I started putting the star in there. It might have been as early as volume 1, but I think I have it a lot more pronounced in later volumes, but it's something that if you have a keen eye, you'll see. You'll notice, too, that when Carly is in her redhead mode, she has like a faint 4-point star in her hair, so it actually transforms, too, with her. But if people leave it out, it's not a big deal. It's just something that I put in there as a visual thing.
Her hair, if you compare how she looked in the first volume to how she looks now, her hair is getting more and more celestial. She has that star shine in it. She has the sideburns that look like lightning bolts, and then she has her cowlick, which sometimes looks like a halo. So she's just getting more and more heavenly.
Captain Cummings asks, do capybaras know how to fly private jets? The smart ones do. When are we going to get Lansky merchandise and a standalone Lansky book? Oh, man. I'm trying to think of the way to answer that. I'm not going to answer that. But no, as far as like a real serious answer, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.
The next action figure after Kamen America is the Lansky
Oh, yeah.
figure.
Yeah, big demand for old Lansky there. LK says, Eric, Joe Casey had some very nice things to say about you and your work on Yul Carter's stream on Tuesday night.
Oh, that's very kind. Thanks, Joe Casey.
Do you know who
Thanks,
Joe
Yul.
Casey is?
Yes.
Was he a
Joe
writer?
Casey, yeah, he's a writer. I collaborated with him way back in the day in my mainstream comic days. He
wrote Deadpool,
really
didn't he?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
He did,
He
yeah.
really helped me. Between him and Joe Kelly, they helped me sort of get my career, help me keep my career going. They were the ones that were, stylistically, I was unemployable. But between those two, they gave me a ton of love. Between them and Rick Remender. So thanks to all of those guys.
Got me off tangent, but have you ever talked to or have you met Ed McGuinness?
No, but I picked up after Ed when he did his Mr. Majestic run, which Joe Casey wrote.
So Ed McGuinness is one of the artists I've met from the industry who is very, very kind. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Right on.
Strangely enough, he doesn't do many conventions, but I met him at the Dallas Fan Expo back in 2013, I think. And I mean, not very, very nice guy, very humble. So I didn't know if you guys had a connection or not.
I think that's it. That's as robust as it gets, is that we worked on the same book together.
Phoenix Kai says, can you tell us the plans of the figures you have coming? Volume 9 is Kamen America. And then after that will be Misha. And after that, we'll just have to see because figures take a very long time to make. I thought that making the statues was kind of an arduous process, and it's like a walk in the park compared to figures. Just to give you a ballpark idea, I was working on the figures since the tail end of Volume 5, so it's taken a year and change to just come out with one. There is a lot of tooling, a lot of prep, and a lot of stress testing and stuff that goes into it. I'd be lying if I said it was fun. It's not fun. But when you can see the end result, it's rewarding. But my pocketbook doesn't like me either, because as Mark knows, sometimes we get the money that comes in. I obviously have to cut him a check, and sometimes it's smaller because I have to ask him. We have to take some of those funds and divert it to this bigger project that will eat up a lot of that money, but we should do it now rather than deal with it later. So that last year for Mark was probably like, he was like, man, I was in a whole new tax bracket and now I fell back again. I said, yeah, because we have to take the money and put it to fun projects that just eat up a lot of time. So that's really all I can say about it. But I think sometime next week I am going to show some very, very high quality photos of it. We're just trying to think of when. We're sitting on a bunch of really cool things to show people. We just don't know about the timing of it. So that's going to be really neat. Is Vicky still doing jail time, or was she let out to be Kamen Terra? So she is technically still under observation. So she's being used by the Spec Ops team to kind of do her quote-unquote community service. I don't like calling it that, but basically she's doing them a favor so that she just doesn't have to go to the slammer pretty much forever.
She's repaying her debt to society.
She is repaying her debt to society, and you're going to see that continue. One thing we did was we made sure to include the digital copy of the Black Ops crossover, because even though we want both books to be read independently, the reality is that we thought that you would not get as much of an emotional impact if you did not see Vicky's side story in the pages of Black Ops. And so we wanted to make sure that the impact was meaningful by adding that as supplemental material. And I had to okay it with Doug also, because obviously it was a kind of a three-way crossover. But Doug is always up for anything that can help promote Soulfinder and add more context to his work and ours too. So we were very happy with the reception of that, by the way. Both between our American and Japanese audiences, they really, really enjoyed that. So I was glad that we decided to make that decision. It would be great if all the figures had a stand that, when put together, would make some kind of cool action scene. Unfortunately, we don't have one of those. We might do it with the last figure and include it as a bonus, just because when you make figures, the expensive thing is the molds. So paying for a figure mold is more expensive than paying for a resin mold, because the figure molds were made to be long-lasting and durable. The idea is that you would mass manufacture figure after figure after figure for cheap, but the mold is where you pay the money into. Conversely, resin molds are cheaper, but you sell them for more expensive pricing, because resin is a much more high-quality material. And it was meant to be not mass-produced and limited in its nature. So every time we have to add something to the figure, we have to pay an extra mold fee to create that thing. So we're trying to keep everything affordable for our readers. I mean, I'm trying to keep the figure price, if I can help it, I'm going to try and keep it at Figma pricing, which is between $75 and $100, because I feel like going past $100, that's when people start to be very, iffy about the final cost of things. So we're trying to keep it both manageable for us and for our readers as well. But who knows, when we get to that final figure, we might have a base that comes with it where they can all combine. That's actually a really good idea. Let's see here. Was Lansky inspired by Alexander from Josie and the Pussycats? That's a question for Mark. As far as I'm concerned, Lansky was not. He was inspired by just skeezy salesmen that we've encountered over the years.
It's funny because I actually had no input on Lansky's character design. That was all Tim. And I don't think Tim ever watched Josie and the Pussycats, but you're not the first person to say that he looks like Alexander, who was the manager for the Josie and the Pussycats in the comic and the cartoon. I don't know, Tim, if that was just maybe a subliminal thing or a total coincidence that he kind of has those similar aesthetics. But, you draw like a sleazy guy in sunglasses, they all kind of end up looking the same.
Will Vicky get her trading card next year? So I will announce that the next trading card in the spring is Vicky. So Kamen Terra is going to get her own card with volume 9. I'm shocked y'all didn't ask for a Cynthia figure. So I'm torn about it because I feel like if you're gonna have the hero, you need a villain to fight with. So part of me wanted to go ahead and do the Cynthia figure, but because there are parts of the Common America mold that we can actually use for the Common Comet mold, it's actually, I guess, more cost efficient for us to get those out of the way right now. I mean, it's obviously not everything because you can't reuse like the head; it's a distinct head. But things like hands, for example, we can reuse. Skirts we can reuse. So there are ways that we can actually save money on the production side by taking care of those. But no, I'm with you. Cynthia's a very popular character, and we do need a villain. So it wouldn't surprise me if she was the next one after all is said and done. And as far as getting across or getting finished with the principal cast. Squid Mama's here. I think it's the first. Is this Squid Mama? I guess it is. I don't know. Super Cosmic Mutant Honey Candle Squid. I mean, I'm guessing it's her. I don't think I've ever seen you in a chat before, so yeah, that's really cool. Should be a fun one. Outside of acting in Common Academy, what is it that Junie and Janie do? We cannot tell you. That's a surprise. It is a surprise. So one thing that we can announce here, if you're listening, is if you read Common Academy, Janie and Junie are two other characters, but there's a third one that some people thought was just Siggy in a wig. It's Clyde. So Clyde is his cousin. So there's actually a guy out there who kind of looks like him, but the difference is that his hair is black instead of like a chestnut brown color. What is everyone's preferred vehicle of choice, seeing as how you added a motorcycle and a mech? I don't think the mech is technically a vehicle, but I don't think we can talk about that, right, Mark? Can't talk about vehicles right now.
No, I mean the mech was in some artwork, but that's not been in the book yet.
Yeah. I really hope y'all come to Fan Expo New Orleans. We would love to do New Orleans as a show. I hear it's a lot of fun. We were actually in New Orleans earlier this year on vacation. We go anywhere where we get an invite. However, I think starting, this year and next year, we're going to try and expand our reach a little bit by, I guess, traveling as a collective and doing more shows, because a lot of people have been asking for us to do them. And our good friend here, Eric Canetti, I think has been bitten by the convention bug. And I think he likes hanging out with us. So as long as he does that, and
I think I'll go to convention. That's the only thing. It's like, hey, I get to hang out with the guys. I got to find a reason to. Hey, you guys want to come to a convention? You want to hang out at this convention over here? It's really a selfish way of like, I want to hang out with these guys some more.
We were doing this show in Paragould, Arkansas, and this is not a big show. I think it was between 3,000 and 3,500 people max. And Eric flew down, and he didn't want to set up. And I even told him, the whole thing is compensated. If you want me to get you a booth, we can get you a booth. And he said, no, I just want to hang out. And so he just hanged out behind us in the booth drawing.
With Captain Cummings.
With Captain Cummings. And the guys who run the show were like, is that Eric Canetti? And I was like, shh, don't tell anyone. They're like, why didn't you tell us? I said, because he didn't want me to tell you guys that he was here. But they said, if we bring books to him, can he sign them? And so I had to go to Eric and say, hey, is it fine if the guys did that?
So funny. They were so shy about it. You know what I mean? I was just like, yeah, sure, anytime. They were really cool dudes.
Well, they were busting my balls because they're like, you're holding out on us, Tim. Why didn't you tell us you were bringing Eric Canetti to the show? I said, well, because he just wants to hang out with us. He doesn't want to set up.
He's on the secret menu. You got to ask, and then he comes out from behind the curtain.
You know what's gonna be funny, Eric, is it's gonna be one of those things where one day, like Robert Kirkman will call you up and be like, hey, I see you're doing that show, can I come? And you're like, you may tell the guys, or no, I just want to hang out. I just want to be behind the booth.
So funny.
Working on the next Walking Dead spin-off. They're going to come to you and be like, Eric, is that who we think it is? Like, shh, don't say anything. He just wants to hang out.
It'll just be everybody behind the what do you call it, the backdrops. You know what I mean? There's a whole gaggle of people back there that don't want to be seen.
So, Squid Mama says, please, 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 please come to PopCon in Indy. Having a hero from Indiana would go like gangbusters here. So, if you can think of a way that we can get there and you want to put out a word for us, I mean, I would love to go to Indiana because that's just up north from us, and I've never been. It's funny that you mentioned it because I've always wanted to visit Carmel, Indiana. Apparently, it has the most roundabouts of any city of its size in the country. and it seems like a really nice place to live. So there's actually aspects of where Carly is from, Oscar, that are actually based off of Carmel, Indiana, which, if you look at the map, is right in the heart of the state. So we like I said, we try to take any offer that we can, provided that we plan ahead of time. That's like a big one for us, or at least for me, at least. Scheduling, like I have to know way ahead of schedule when these things are, so that I can plan accordingly. Let's see here. It was fun seeing you at Bell County, Eric. Still love my Aku sketch you did.
Oh,
Wasn't
that's sweet. Thanks for
Aku.
coming to talk with me.
Is that Samurai Jack?
Yeah, it's the main baddie from Samurai Jack. It was difficult to draw, to be honest with you, because he's all he's all graphic. I tried to give him volume, and it didn't work.
He's that weird dude with the beard, right? He kind of looks like a totem pole.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the eyebrows and the very specific fangs, you know.
Oh, is it because
cool.
he's so two-dimensional looking in the
He's
cartoon?
He's a cutout.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a cutout.
So I cannot answer this, but this is for the three of you, because all three of you are writers. So Revi's husband says, what advice would you give for a comic book writer? I mean, I really want to get some indie comics off the ground. So let's start with Mark and then go to Doug and then Eric.
Well, I mean, it sounds obvious, but not enough people do it, is if you want to be a comic writer, just start writing, because you'll never get any better if you don't practice. You'll look at your first stuff and, 5 years from now you might wince at it, but you'll be 5 years better. So just start writing, practicing, put your ideas on paper, even if you're just writing fan fiction that no one else in the world will see. It's all just practice. So
I would echo that and also say you want to be your own harshest critic. You don't want to be an unfair critic. You want to have constructive criticism, but you want to be your harshest critic by far. And I would also say, I've said this before, if you want to be a good writer, good writers tend to also be good readers. So make time on a regular basis in your life to read books, and not just any books, but good books. I tend to go for the classics. I mean, they're tried and true, and you could learn a lot from them. And so some people think you could just like, oh man, I'm just doing what's in my head. I'm creative, man. I don't need to read. And it's like, well, if you're writing on the Cold War, you probably should learn some things about the Cold War to speak with authority on the Cold War. So definitely make time for reading.
And
I'm not a comic book writer. I just fell ass backwards into it. So I copy a lot of other comic book writers. It's interesting to see comic book writing cadence, because there's a very specific way that you deliver information. So if you it's different than prose writing, and it's definitely different than like writing for books. Comics has a key way that you deliver information, right? Whether it be dialogue or through caption. And that's something that you should arm yourself with, even if it's just purely from the technical, so you know how to implement it when the time comes, right?
It's I know people say it a lot, but it was actually really helpful for me as far as just analyzing it. But if you pick up any of Scott McCloud's books, where he actually talks about it kind of in a very meta way, but actually making a comic about understanding and writing comics, it's a very good starting point for looking at comics as from a technical point of view, like how you can implement some of these rules of thumb to make your work stand out. Now, I'm not saying that it's the Bible or be-all, end-all. A lot of people have their criticisms about it, but like I said, if you ever go to your library and check it out, or you find it on sale somewhere, definitely take a gander at it, because I think you'll find some useful tips in there. Let's see here. Okay, so I would love to see you at Dragon Con. Doug used to go to Dragon Con all the time, and we want to do Dragon Con, but there's a waiting list for it. But that would be fun, because that's kind of in our neck of the woods. That's in Georgia. Anytime you guys come to Miami, I don't know, I'll make it out. So we were actually in Orlando last year, and that was a lot of fun. I looked up MegaCon. MegaCon's in February, and I think they're all sold out of exhibitor and artist alley tables. So they have a waiting list set up. And the problem with waiting lists is I need to plan way ahead of time. And so if we get waitlisted and they approve me in January, I mean, my odds of going there are like slim to none, because I got to take some time off. But the good thing is these guys, some of them might be able to make it, so it might be worth pursuing. The other one I was looking at was Heroes Con for next year, but I don't think they have any open admissions yet, or at least I wasn't able to find any. But that would be a really fun one to go to. I saw a really good question here a while ago. Speaking of villains, which of the ones we know of so far would you and Mark say is your favorite to work on? I will tell you that my personal favorite is actually Cynthia, and her aesthetic is actually based on a very specific person. And y'all are going to laugh when you hear it, but it's based off of the lady who turned out to be a bad guy in Hot Shots Part 2. The one who does the somersault off the top balcony onto Charlie Sheen. I mean, if you look at her, you can tell where that inspiration is from. So, I don't know. I like the idea of drawing this really bad woman. I don't know. She's kind of a witch, to be honest.
As for me, I mean, I really like writing Zener Ecto. I enjoyed writing him at first, and it's one of those things where Tim brought in. He read my script for Kamen America 7, and he asked me afterwards, like, "Hey, by the way, did you intentionally write Zener Ecto to sound like Norm Macdonald?" And I was like, "What? No, not at all. I had a totally different voice. I had him sounding like a late night DJ in my head." And Tim's like, "Go back and read his dialogue with Norm's voice in your head." And I did. And like, "Oh man, that's perfect." And so, Kamen America 8, I started writing Zener Ecto with Norm's voice in my head, and I just had a blast doing it. It just informed so much of the kinds of jokes and the cadence of his dialogue. And so now I just want to write Zener Ecto all the time because it's like writing Norm Macdonald.
There's a part in Volume 8, if you read it in Norm Macdonald's voice, it's really funny, because he says "on nuts" at least 2 or 3 times in the whole script. And that was done on purpose, because we could both hear it in our heads. You know, he gets his head blasted off, and he's like, "on nuts." And then, like, something else falls on him, and he says it again. But just read the whole thing. Like, it's like that whole spiel when he's in the cargo hold, where he's like, "Hey, you should come down here and look. There's, like, a lot of muddy crap down here." I don't know. It cracks me up.
Yeah, that was the part that had like the most Norm when I was writing it. It's like, I'm down in the cargo hold. You want me to send you a photo? You should see all the rabbit crap they have down here. It's weird.
So this is a question for you, Mark, because I just draw it and you're the writer. But was one of the characters based on the Zeo Gold Ranger?
So the Zeo Rangers is funny because. Not intentionally based off any of the Zeo Rangers, including the Zeo Gold Ranger, but when we were going over our sort of our parody Super Sentai team, and I was sending Tim some examples, the Zeo Rangers were among them, just because they were a Sentai team whose helmets incorporated geometric designs instead of just being visors. Same thing like the Samurai Rangers, who all had kanji as part of their visors. And I think I sent that to Tim. I was like, here's an example of how the Super Sentai style helmets can look if they have like symbols and shapes as incorporated into their visors. So that kind of maybe sort of like superficially informed the Zener Rangers designs, but they're all based on Zener cards. And so one of the Zener cards is a star, and I think it was Tim's idea to invert the star to make it more menacing for that character. But other than that, according to one of our friends from Japan, the Zeo Rangers actually are inspired, I said the Zeo Rangers. The O Rangers, which is the Japanese version of that season, they're inspired by Zener cards as well, even though their symbols don't all have anything to do with Zener cards, so I'm not quite sure about that. But that was an interesting thing I learned after the fact.
Squid Mama knows exactly who I'm talking about. The lady with the fake mole. Yes, in Hot Shots Part 2, the lady with the fake mole. So every time you read Cynthia Prestige's dialogue, I always hear that actress in that movie, and I always see her, because I remember as a kid when I watched that movie, I was like, that is a bad woman, like what she did. And it's funny because I watched the Hot Shots Part 2 censored version. So when she jumps off the top of that balcony onto Charlie Sheen, it pretty much just cuts away. And so I was just like, it was even funnier because it looked like she just crashed into the bed and just cuts into like another take altogether. I didn't even realize what they were doing. But yeah, she's a bad person. Let's see here. Would love to see you guys in Portland. Well, you might want to hold on for just a second. Just wait a minute, because we're going to tell you something that you might want to hear. There was that one I had highlighted twice because it was a really good question. Where did you go? Here it is. So, quick question. Since Cynthia and the Xena Rangers fought the National Guard, are they wanted by the U.S. government? No, they're not. Because if you look at the news in the last few years, there are people who do all sorts of crazy stuff and never get arrested for it, because if you're a large enough body and there's enough politicians who are paid off to let their DAs let you off the hook, you can pretty much get away with murder, theft, arson, you name it nowadays. So when you're celebrities and you're fighting on a dam for a quote-unquote peaceful protest and the media is on your side and can spin it that way, you can get away with a lot of shenanigans. So no, in the aftermath of all of this, I would have to say that some things have been shifted as far as like public opinion is concerned. I think you do have a subset of people who see what Kamen America and her friends did and are like, nah, she's the hero in all of this. And then you have still a lot of people who are like, nah, like she's a hack. Like, we really like the Xena Rangers, but they did take a bit of a hit because of the whole Aragaki thing. So if you've read Volume 8, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I think we only have one more question, and then I'm going to go on to the news. Let's see. Oh, it was just this. When Sylvia used her Sega Game Gear to morph, I laughed my butt off. That you can thank Mark for that, because that was his idea.
Oh, just to clarify one thing real quick. Some people have asked, like, hey, she's using a Game Boy cartridge in her Sega Game Gear? Like, is that a mistake? Like, no, it's not a mistake. We just don't want to get sued. So we fudge some of the game console designs, and you'll notice they do that in anime too. Someone will be playing like a Sony game station, and it'll look just a little bit different. So we fudge some of the console designs, so there's a semi-recognizability to it, but it's not a direct copy of intellectual property. So that's not a mistake. We did it on purpose. Okay.
Did you guys see the idea for Kamen America where she invades the White House like in Superman 2? No, we didn't see that one, but I don't know. So the problem is that we're trying to keep geographic locations to we're trying to keep them to a minimum, but also spread it out a little bit more, because I think once you have fights in major locales like, the Statue of Liberty, the White House, the Capitol, you name it, it's like you can't revisit those places anymore because we've already been there. So we're always trying to think of clever places to put them. And so I think if we have something in the White House, one, we're not trying to make like a major political statement, but two, that's going to be something we're going to have to save for like way, way down the road, for something that happens to kind of cap off a very important chapter or part of a saga or something. Okay, so let us talk about our locations we're going to. So the first one is actually some major news. It is going to be the next Iconic Comics convention appearance. Mark and I will not be there, but Eric, Doug, Scott Mallon, his last name is Mallon, not Malin, Scott Mallon, and Bryce Beal are going to be at Rose City Comic-Con next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, that is in Portland, is it not?
It is, yep. Downtown Portland at the Portland Convention Center.
It is the Portland Convention Center. I was telling Doug before the stream started that Bell County Comic-Con exceeded 40,000 guests. But Rose City Comic-Con is a sister Comic-Con to Emerald City, which is one of the top 5 largest in the country. Rose City Comic-Con is host to, on average, 70,000 attendees every year. So that is a major presence for us to be at. We're very excited to be there. We want to thank Eric for the very gracious invitation and putting that on our radar and also facilitating it. There's a lot of things that these guys have planned. You're going to see a really huge backdrop that I don't think he's shared online yet, but we're gonna debut it at that show, and I think the guys have some pretty clever tricks up their sleeves as far as like stuff. So I know one thing Doug needs to do is he needs to call the Iconic Warehouse and tell them to ship more books over because you might need them. Sounds like.
Yeah, I'll be shipping some more books to your house tomorrow, Eric.
But these guys are going to have a lot of fun. The last time I was there was in 2015. I was there for Emerald City Comic Con. It was a blast. I know this sounds this sounds so bad, but where we live, where Mark and I live, we do not have a cheesecake factory. And I love Cheesecake Factory. and so we ate there every day after the show.
Holy cow.
Yes, it was wonderful. I loved it. And I think Eric's laughing because he knows exactly which one I'm talking about.
I know it. Right across the street. Yep.
You're right across the street. You just walk about 20 feet, and you're right there, and it was heavenly. And then, when I went to visit Doug in Reno, he was like, where do you guys want to eat? And I was like, I don't care. And he's like, you want to go to Cheesecake Factory? And I was like, maybe. and that's where we went.
It's like literally right down the street from my place.
I love
Cheesecake Factory is the perfect place to go when you don't know what to eat because they literally serve everything. Their menu's the size of a phone book.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They have a phone book size
menu.
Yeah, and the funny thing is you think that they would serve nothing but cheesecake. But it's like an Italian restaurant almost.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah, but it's wonderful. So these guys, you can catch them next week. We're letting you guys know ahead of time. I think maybe tomorrow or Monday we'll put out an announcement on social media so that y'all can get prepared because Mark and I, we did Arkansas Comic Con last weekend, which was fantastic. That was our second best show of the year. But we did have some people who were upset because they're like, I would have driven to see you, but you didn't let us know until like 2 days before the show. And I'm like, you know what? You're right.
That's a good point.
I was like, you're absolutely right. We did that honestly because it kind of slipped my mind. And with everything going on as far as like our work schedule is concerned, it's a local show. So we just always think like, it's hometown. We just drive over there and do the show. But we keep on forgetting there's people in neighboring states. We had one guy who showed up and he was from Mississippi. And I was like, you drove from Mississippi to see us? He's like, yeah, because I have all your books and I want them signed. I was like, okay. And then there was one guy, Doug, I think briefly mentioned to him on Twitter, but he came by and he was like, all right, what do you guys got? And I said, well, we got everything. I mean, if you want Kamen America, we got it. We got Black Ops here. And he goes, I have all of that. I want Soul Finder. I was like, he's not here. And he looked so downtrodden. And I was like, no, man, like I just give me your name and phone number and let me do a recording for Doug real quick and he'll hook you up. And so that guy was super happy because he came all that way because he just wanted to meet Doug. So I was like, I talked on the phone with Eric and I said, we have to announce this because there are people in the area who want to know that y'all are coming. Like this gentleman in the chat who was like, you guys should come to Portland,
right.
Mr. Conrad. So
right.
That's your news. So they are going to be in Portland next week for 3 days. So make sure to stop by and say to these four gentlemen, Mr. Scott Mallon, Bryce Beal, Eric Canetti, and Douglas Ernst.
Just say, hey, I was in the Bunderdome chat, and then I'll give you something for free.
Yeah, that's the other thing is typically at these shows, we always bring freebies. And so if you ever come to a show and you say you know us, we hook you up. You can ask some of the guys who come to Bell County every year. They just say like, hey, I love all your books. I have all of this stuff. And we always print out some stuff to give to readers, new and old. So don't hesitate to stop by and say hello. These guys will not bite. The second convention that we have to announce, so far it is the last one scheduled for the year, but it's another big one. And that is going to be the North Carolina Comic Con. And that is going to be, if I get my dates correct, that is going to be November 4th and 5th. And that is going to be in Durham, North Carolina. That is another big show. Their lineup is rather impressive. They got Arthur Adams. He's there. He's going to be kind of their headliner. Alex Maleev is going to be there as well. And obviously we have Mr. Eric Canetti, as well as Douglas Ernst, myself, and Mark. So the four of us will be in North Carolina Comic Con, November 4th and the 5th. So if you're on the East Coast and want to come by and say hello, We are going to be very happy to be there. Like I said, last time Mark and I were there was in Heroes Con, and that was in 2015. And so we like that part of the country, and we've been kind of dying to go back there. So we're going to be making that trek to North Carolina here in about 2 months, and we can't wait to see you all there. So we'll be making sure to make those announcements. Just to give people a heads up, there's going to be 2 other comic publishers there besides Iconic. One is Keen Spot and Bad Idea. They're both going to be at that show. So that's another major one for us, and we cannot wait to say hello to everyone there. Crazy Ed says, is there any upcoming short animated movie about Kamen America coming soon or not yet? Well, plans are in the works, but I don't think I can officially say anything yet. That's a really, really, really long-term goal. So who knows? We'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I think in the spring, I am going to be putting together a supercut of all the animation we have so far, plus the animation that's in the work, and combined, it's about 20 plus seconds. We were actually talking earlier this week between myself, Doug, and Eric Canetti. If you combine all of our trailers together, we have at least 30 seconds of animated footage, both static moving animation and like fully frame animation. So I don't know. That's a pie in the sky idea, but that's something that we definitely have on our radar, but we can't officially say or announce anything yet. Alrighty, so I promised these gentlemen that I would finish within an hour, and so we're about 3 minutes in. If there's any last minute questions, I'll be more than happy to put those up for us to answer. But in the meantime, Eric and Doug and maybe Mark, do y'all have anything that you want to say or announce or discuss real quick?
Mark?
No, I mean, I'm doing the same stuff Tim is. I'm going to be at the same shows and everything, so I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in North Carolina. It's fun to go to different regions of the country and see people that we haven't gotten to see at shows before, so looking forward to it.
And I'll just reiterate, if you're in Portland next week, we will be there, and I'm looking forward to anyone who's been in the Bunderdome chat, stop by the booth. Love to talk to you. Love to give you, Soul Finder pin or maybe a bag or, a tumbler or something along those lines. But I really have enjoyed going around the country this year. So it's been going down to Texas, going to Arkansas, now on the West Coast, and then the East Coast to end out the year. It's been a really cool 2023.
I'm just speaking selfishly. I just wanted to hang out with these guys. So I'm pretty excited for people to come out and hang out in my neck of the woods. So,
and is that why he flew down to our house so you could be on the stream with us?
He just wanted to eat that big steak. That's the entire reason he came
all the way
down.
to Arkansas.
It was funny because Eric was like, "Hey, I didn't want to tell you guys, but there was a part of me that was thinking about flying down and just surprising y'all at the show." And I thought,
yeah,
Eric, our booth was 6 feet. And it's like 6 feet corner. I was like, no, 6 feet, as in like that was the table. And he was like, right. Oh my gosh, you guys must have been scrunching there. I said, yeah, but we had 3 people working the booth. And so what we did, this is a little bit of insight into how the mechanics of conventions work. So if you have some extra help, sometimes what you want to do is it's nice if you have a cramped space and you have at least 2 of you, because either both of you can be behind it, one person drawing, the other person answering questions, or in our case we had 3 people, and the third person would stand in front of the booth, and it makes you look busy so that people won't be scared to come up. Right. He's sitting there kind of reading books and stuff, and so if you have the quote-unquote looky-loos, they'll come up and they're not going to be scared or shy or anything because they see that there's kind of like one person ahead of them, but it gives them the opportunity to kind of get in line and then peruse and not have the stress of having to like
the industry term for that is paid shill.
Yeah, and this is a big guy, our friend. He's actually the co-writer for the Micro series coming up next, but it was fun having him there because he used to be our manager when we used to do shows before Iconic, and he got bitten by the bug too, and now he wants to do more shows, which is fun because he's really, really savvy as far as working conventions is concerned. Al Jamil.
I missed it. Oh, sorry. I missed it in the chat, but
go ahead.
Robert Sage, Robotic Sage Lizard in the chat said, loved your bookmark. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. If you're talking about my horror novel, They'll Get You, it's on Amazon. Thanks for reading that. I also have another horror short story coming out in the Halloween issue of Cursova magazine, which you can pre-order now, and it's coming out in, I think, a week. Cursova, Cirsova. You can get that on Amazon. And there's lots of other really good horror stories in that one as well by other authors like Michael Tierney and other folks. So again, I appreciate it. Thank you for reading my prose stuff. Not a lot of people do.
Aljamel3. Oh, by the way, I want to say thank you to him. He's the guy, if you are on Twitter, contact him if you want to purchase the doujinshi, because he helps a lot of people get that from the Japanese website. So he's been facilitating a lot of that. He says there's a big comic convention in Rapid City, South Dakota. I promise it is not all snow and ice in this state. I love South Dakota. I was there about a decade ago. We actually visited Deadwood during this kind of northwestern road trip that we were doing. We went all the way up to Mount Rushmore, and so I do know that part of the state is or that part of the country is really cool. If you have an in and you want to shoot us or facilitate some sort of connection where we can make it up there, I'm sure the guys would love to visit, because it is a really nice part of the country. Advice for making it big in comics. I don't know.
I don't have a good one.
Write something entertaining and make sure the art is good. Luck is like 50% of it.
It's so base, Tim.
What did they say? Luck is talent plus opportunity. That's one way of saying it. I don't even like the word talent. I would say it's craft. Yeah. Luck is nothing more than craft plus opportunity. You make something that you think people want, and then you just pray for the opportunity to come your way, and then luck is the big factor for doing it. I mean, admittedly, Kamen America probably wouldn't be where it is if it weren't for just a handful of people who read it, liked it, and then talked about it online and then spread the word. So,
I say don't give up if you're not a millionaire after your first volume.
That too.
Yeah, I mean, it took Kamen America, the first one on Kickstarter. I mean, it was $20K, which was at the time for us our biggest success, and we were just floored by it. And it's done a little better each time, and we're doing volume 9 coming in January or February. But I mean, that's 4 years worth of work, and steady increase. You've got to stick with it. If you give up after your first disappointment, then that opportunity is never going to come your way.
Is Carly still a redhead? Her hair seems more brown these days. She is still a redhead, but canonically, she's kind of like a strawberry blonde, I guess. Her hair kind of it leans more towards red/orange, but you'll notice over time that there's some elements of her hair that are kind of weird. So, for example, she used to only have the ahoge when she was a blonde, but you'll start to see it more as she's in her normal state, and there's a reason for that, but we'll touch on that in the future. Is Shilava doing a new song for the next saga? She is. She's working on it as we speak, and I think you'll love it, because we have a new energy that we're going to be introducing into it. Now that Vicky's commentary, how does she handle compliments? She handles the compliments from her commentera personality, but the public does not know her true identity, so that's still kind of a secret. As far as her university is concerned, she's on this thing called a sabbatical. In academic settings, a lot of professors who are tenured, you can just kind of leave and don't come back for like 2 semesters, and people are perfectly okay with that, and they call that sabbatical. So that's essentially like her explanation for why she hasn't shown up to work in a long time. Seems like you guys are at Iconic are growing with new artists and writers. Are there more soon to join you guys? Wow. Okay, so Scott and Bryce were kind of the mystery surprise. They joined us a few months ago with the release of Kindred Heavens. There is one more who I think is joining at the end of the year, and he is going to get his campaign going probably in the next month or two, and then I think I don't know if contractually they fill out the paperwork, but they're right there. So we'll be making that announcement very, very soon. Any chance of getting Subdued Kiro patches? I don't know what Subdued is. Do you know what that is, Doug?
maybe instead of the bright red, like a gray or something.
I mean, Doug can do it. He has the working file, so.
Yeah, I mean, let me know what color you're thinking of, Low Pro, and we can make that happen.
For F1 fans, she did what Kimi Raikkonen did from 20. I don't. Do you know what this is, Mark? Is this like a tokusatsu thing?
Let me see real quick.
F1 fans.
For F1 fans, she did what Kimi Raikkonen did. No, I don't think I know what that means. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Alrighty. Well, that is, like I said, I tried to keep it short for these guys because we're all old and we need to go to bed. I actually need to go work on more Kamen Academy strips before the night is over. So thank you all so much for showing up. And again, follow us on social media. At some point, I'm going to let these two gentlemen, announce the Rose City Comic-Con thing officially on social media. But if you are in the Portland area or know someone who it is, make sure that you tell your friends to go there because it'll be a lot of fun. 70,000 people are going to be there, so it's one of the major conventions in the country. I don't think it's as big as Emerald City, but I would probably put it up there in the top 10 for sure because of the sheer number of people who go to it. But catch Eric and Doug and Scott and Bryce at the show, and then we will see you guys in about 3 months at the Durham, North Carolina show, November 4th and the 5th. And again, that's Eric, Doug, Mark, and me. We will be going out there, and we can't wait to see some of y'all at the show. So have a good night, everyone. Peace,
Night.
and we'll talk to you later.
See you.